with 4 teams on bye this week, you may need to dig deep and put some players in your lineup that are a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to give you 8 sneaky starts I think you can consider this week if you're in a pinch. Now, I did mention Gus Edwards a couple weeks ago as a sneaky start, and it looked like he was going to have a nice game until he left with a concussion. But I'm going to go back to the well here for Gus Edwards because he did return in week 4, and he handled the lion's share of the work. He played 70% of the snaps. He had 15 carries, and that was with Justice Hill back in the lineup and Melvin Gordon even called up from the practice squad. Now, granted, he didn't do a whole lot with those 15 carries last week, but that was against Cleveland, one of the best defenses in the NFL, certainly one of the best run defenses. Now he gets Pittsburgh, one of the worst run defenses. But not only are they one of the worst run defenses, they're just one of the worst teams, so you don't have to worry about him getting game scripted out in this game. And Gus Edwards is the type of running back that in these softer matchups can pick up chunks of yardage, always can get usage near the goal line. He's a very good goal line back, has a chance to score a touchdown. So when you're looking at running backs on the waiver wire that you could potentially be streaming in place of guys like Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, or Jerome Ford, I really like Gus Edwards. I think he comes through. It's a great matchup. He has touchdown upside. If he's still out there on your waiver wire, I would absolutely add him and start him this week. Now, I'm going to be honest with this next pick. This is really deep, and I'm talking about Latavius Murray of the Bills. This is not a guy I'm going to recommend you play, if you have other better options. This is for deep leagues, 14, 16 team leagues where maybe you have multiple guys out on bye. Maybe you have Kenneth Walker and Rashad White on the same team, and you are just desperate and there is nothing on the waiver wire. Because this is a running back who has yet to play more than 33% of the snaps and is yet to see more than 6 carries in a game. So how can I recommend Latavius Murray? Well, it's simple. You're hoping for a touchdown here. You're chasing the touchdown. Desperation start. Please, can you score? Because believe it or not, only 6 running backs have more carries inside the 5-yard line than Latavius Murray this year. And in this matchup against Jacksonville, the Bills should be able to move the ball and maybe give Murray some chances to score. So, sure, Murray doesn't have a very high floor. Again, this is for only extremely desperate players in deep leagues. But there's 4 teams on bye. There are good running backs who aren't playing this week. Murray has touchdown upside, so if you're absolutely desperate, you could consider Latavius Murray. Now, wide receiver, I really like rookie Rashee Rice, not only this week, but going forward. I really like what I'm seeing from him in this Chiefs offense. He's played just about 50% of the snaps in each of the last 2 games, and he has at least 4 targets in 3 of 4 games this year. And when you look at him on a target per route run basis, he ranks second behind only Devontae Adams among all wide receivers. That means when he is running routes, he's getting targeted. And he's seen his routes increase every week. In fact, in week 4, he ran the same amount of routes as Sky Moore. He could be about to pass Sky Moore in terms of routes run. And in this matchup, you have to love his upside because he gets the Minnesota Vikings, a terrible pass defense. The Rice breakout game is coming, and it could be this week in this matchup. And Pierre talked about him on the Beat the Breakouts video. If you haven't watched that, go watch it when you're done with this. But I think he's a fantastic stash as well, even if you don't need him this week, because the upcoming schedule for the Chiefs is absolutely incredible. He could have many big games here. Rashee Rice is coming on, has a chance for a big game. So if you need to stream him in week 5, I think he's great. But I also think he's worth a stash, even if you're not going to start him this week. Then I want to talk about another rookie wide receiver who's been quietly coming on, and that is Josh Downs for the Indianapolis Colts. Hasn't really had a big game yet, but he has been involved in this passing attack. He's played at least 73% of the snaps in every game and has 5 or more targets in 3 of the 4 games. The problem is the way he's being used. He's being used as a very low ADOT, average depth of target wide receiver, meaning the targets he gets are very close to the line of scrimmage. But there's reasons to think that could change here in week 5. Because the Colts' deep threat wide receiver Alec Pierce is in the concussion protocol, and if he is out, they may rely on Josh Downs more down the field. And he gets a great matchup this week against the Tennessee Titans. Don't look at what the Titans did last week against the Bengals. That was a total outlier. Even going back to last year, this Titans defense has been horrible against the pass and very good against the run. This is a defense you attack through the air. Anthony Richardson has looked good. He's got a cannon. He's got an arm. I love Michael Pittman this week. I think he's going to have a big week. But don't sleep on Josh Downs, especially if you're desperate at the wide receiver position. He's playing a ton of snaps. He's getting targets. And if Alec Pierce is out, he may need to get more down the field type of shots. And against the Titans, that'll probably be enough. So Josh Downs, certainly worth a stream in your deeper leagues. Now let's move on to quarterback, and it's rough in the streaming streets this week, but I do like Joshua Dobbs of the Arizona Cardinals. He's actually been pretty good. If you look at Josh Dobbs since week 2, he is the QB6 in fantasy. That's right, only 5 quarterbacks have scored more fantasy points than Josh Dobbs since week 2. He's had at least 41 rushing yards in each of those games, and it's not just him taking off and scrambling when the pocket breaks down. They are calling designed runs for him, which is great for his fantasy value. And the matchup this week shouldn't really scare you, as the Bengals are just kind of a below average defense against the pass. I mean, sure, they're not a smash matchup here, but they're also not a matchup that should scare you. So Josh Dobbs in this matchup, with what he's doing with his legs and how he's looked throwing the ball as well, at least gives you a decent floor at the QB position with a little bit of upside if you're looking for a streamer. And then I'm going to do what I normally don't do, and I'm going to recommend a quarterback I normally don't recommend. And right now, I'm pretty much batting 0 when it comes to this, because a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, stream Baker Mayfield. He had his worst game of the season. Last week, I said, hey, go ahead, stream Daniel Jones, and he was completely awful. But I'm going to say you can stream Zach Wilson if you need to, but really only in a 2 QB Superflex league. Please don't start Zach Wilson in a 1 QB league. But if you're looking for a QB2 streamer this week, Zach Wilson might do it because he gets the Broncos. The Broncos, by far, one of the worst defenses we've seen in many years. They're allowing 7 yards per play. The worst defense last year allowed 6.2 yards per play. We just saw Justin Fields torch this defense for 4 touchdowns. Pretty much anybody who's played this defense has torched them this year. And look, Zach Wilson at least looked competent in week 4 against the Chiefs. Maybe he builds off of that. Maybe he gets a little better. Maybe it doesn't matter because it's the Broncos. So again, please don't start Zach Wilson in your 1 QB leagues. But if you're in a deep 2 QB Superflex type of league, and maybe you got guys on bye like Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, and you're desperate, I think Zach Wilson can at least come through as a streaming QB2 this week. All right, now on a tight end, and again, there's not a lot of good streaming options this week. Plus, most people are picking up tight ends because all the ones that were drafted have been pretty terrible for the most part. But I do like rookie Dalton Kincaid. He's starting to come on and starting to show signs. He has 4 more catches in 3 or 4 games this year, but he's yet to top 30 yards. And that's really the problem with him so far. His average depth of target, like I talked about with Josh Downs, is only 4 yards, which means when he's getting targeted, he's only 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. You got to do a lot of yards after catch if you're going to be good when you're getting that kind of usage. But there are some encouraging signs here. In week 4, on the 29 Josh Allen dropbacks, Dalton Kincaid ran a route on 23 of them. Dawson Knox, the other tight end, only ran a route on 14 of them. It looks like Dalton Kincaid is finally pulling away from Dawson Knox at least, and that could lead to more routes and more targets. And he does face a Jaguars defense that is currently bottom 5 in terms of fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. And look, we're talking about tight ends here. You're not expecting a 20-point game from your streaming tight end. If he continues to run more routes and gets targets, and maybe gets targets a little bit farther down the field, he can at least give you a decent floor at the tight end position. And in this offense, he always has touchdown upside. And then it's time to rejoice because finally a Falcons tight end is fantasy relevant. It's just Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith. Yep, that's right. Jonnu Smith is actually the leading receiver among tight ends on the Falcons. Actually, scratch that. He's a leading receiver on the Falcons. Are you kidding me? Jonnu Smith has the most receiving yards of any player on the Falcons. And here's why. Kyle Pitts has an average depth of target, which I keep talking about, of 12 yards. That is absolutely elite for a tight end. Jonnu Smith's is only 6. But that's good when your quarterback is Desmond Ridder, because Desmond Ridder cannot throw a football. So when you're getting targeted only 6 yards past the line of scrimmage, it's easier to complete those passes. When you're 12 yards away from the line of scrimmage, those are tough throws. Kyle Pitts currently has the lowest catchable target rate of any pass catcher in the NFL. This is why Jonnu Smith has been better, and it's probably why Jonnu Smith will continue to be better. Because Kyle Pitts is a weapon, and the Falcons are using him like a weapon. They just don't have a quarterback that can support a weapon like Kyle Pitts. And it may surprise you to know that over the last 3 games, Jonnu Smith is the tight end 8 in PPR leagues. That's right, Jonnu Smith, since week 2, is a top 8 tight end. And he has at least 6 targets in each of the last 3 games, so he has a decent floor. Now, granted, he doesn't have a lot of upside. It's hard to see a path for Jonnu Smith catching a touchdown because he plays for the Atlanta Falcons. But if you're just looking for a floor play at tight end in a deeper leagues, this guy seems to be getting it. He fits Desmond Ritter's game way better than Kyle Pitts does. So Jonnu Smith at least should have a decent floor, and it's not a terrible matchup this week either. So if you want to check out that Beat the Breakout video I talked about, plus many more videos to help you win your Week 5 matchup, check out our Week 5 playlist right here.